Welcome to the Queerest Podcast, your cosmic guide to the queer universe. Hosted by Andraé BVR, each episode takes you on an interstellar journey through queer culture, identity, and influence. From dismantling media tropes to exploring queer representation, we invite you to challenge norms and expand your horizons. So buckle up and set your phasers to fabulous. Close encounters of the queerest kind await.
Greetings, cosmic queers and allies. I am your host, Andraé BVR, and this is the Queerest Podcast, your cosmic guide through the ever-expanding universe of queer culture, identity, and influence. Today's episode is all about drag kings, the artistry, the activism, and the audacity that it takes to demand space when none is given. What does it mean to parody masculinity, to celebrate it, and to rewrite it on our own terms? Few embody that question more than today's guest, Johnny Gentleman, one of the kings reshaping how we understand drag and how we understand masculinity itself. So here's how we're charting today's course. First, we'll kick things off with an incoming transmission, checking in on what's lighting up the queer universe. Then we'll beam into a deep space dive with Johnny on drag king identity, masculinity, and building platforms. And finally, we'll wrap with the final frontier, our cosmic rapid fire round of questions. But first, let's scan the queer skies. You are now tuned in to the incoming transmission, our signal check on the queer universe. From culture shifts to policy moves, this is where we track what's changing and how we move through it together. Masculinity is everywhere. It shapes how we move, how we're seen, and how power is claimed. But the version most of us inherit, it's cracked. Toxic masculinity tells us strength means dominance, intimacy is weakness, and swagger comes with cruelty. It shrinks us, it shames us, and it harms us all, whether we're crushed under its weight or forced to perform it just to survive. That's where drag kings step in. Drag kings take that tired script and rip it up. They turn the chest beating, the macho posturing, the power trips into satire. And suddenly, we're laughing at what once kept us afraid. But drag kings don't stop at parody. They celebrate what's worth keeping, the confidence, the charisma, the swagger that doesn't wound. Drag kings remind us masculinity does not have to be toxic to be powerful. It can be playful, it can be campy, sexy, and expansive. And for far too long, drag has been framed almost exclusively through the lens of drag queens. But drag kings are rewriting masculinity from the inside out. Today's guest, Johnny Gentleman, has been at the center of that rewrite. Now let's beam into today's deep space dive. Johnny Gentleman is a Latinx, Indigenous, trans-masc, drag king, actor, activist, and producer who has been carving out space for kings in Los Angeles for more than a decade. He is the force behind LA's first drag king brunch, Dapper, Puss, and the city's premier king competition, The Last Gentleman. Two shows that have redefined visibility for drag kings, non-binary performers, and BIPOC artists. From stages at WeHo Pride, LA Pride, Oaklash, and Bushwig, to features in Vox, LA Times, Spectrum News, and yes, even Storage Wars. Johnny has built a career that blends performance with platform building. His work doesn't just entertain, it shifts culture, proving drag kings are not only here, but essential. Johnny, welcome to the Queerest Podcast.
Hello, that was such a cute little intro. Thank you.
Absolutely. So excited to have you. I'm really excited about this conversation just because I think there is just so much to unpack around the importance of drag kings in our community, but also in a wider sense around our culture and how there is just so much that drag kings do to subvert culture, but also create it in such a meaningful way. But I kind of first want to start off with kind of understanding what first drew you to drag as an art form, and when did you know that the king path was yours to claim?
It's a very not fun story for sure. I've been a fan of drag since about 2010. So in 2010, my parents had cable, and I found this channel called Logo. And so I found out about RuPaul's Drag Race, and I knew about RuPaul because, You Better Work. And I always loved that song. Hint, I was gay. And so I had been a fan, like, since then. I was addicted. I'm still to this day a Drag Race fan, like, through and through. Very, very picky with my drag for it. Just watching all the drag and seeing how they expressed really was connecting to me in a way that I didn't understand at the time. I was like, these people are like so beautiful. And it wasn't just because of what they were wearing. It was because of who they were, and like makeup and transforming, and like the kind of like putting on this like kind of like armor and mask that like turns them into a different person, which was like totally crazy to me because, being raised in, I'm a first generation military Catholic Latinx like family. So, it was very kind of compressing all that. So one of the things I always wanted to do was do drag, but I didn't want to be a queen because at the time I was female, and I was like, I don't want to be like feminine outside. Like, I don't really want that. Right. So my friend was like, well, have you heard of a drag king? And I was like, what is that? And so she was like, okay, we'll go. They're having a show next week at Hamburger Mary's Long Beach, and I'll show you how it is. So I went over to Landon Sider's show at the time. It was the only monthly drag king show at Hamburger Mary's Long Beach. And I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing, so great. And what really hooked me, and this is going to sound very nerdy, was my friend Havoc Von Doom, legend icon. Not only was he like a showman and like doing these dance moves and like just kind of grasping the crowd, but he was doing it to the Power Rangers as the Green Ranger. And that for me was like a childhood like hero of mine, and to a really like badass like 2000s hip hop jam. So I was like, this is meant to be. This was a calling to me. Like, I want to do this. So, and I've always been a dancer. I've been a performer since I was 12 years old. So for me, performing was my happy place. So I luckily was friends with some makeup artists, and, they taught me how to contour because I wasn't wearing makeup at the time. And I signed up for a competition here in Pomona. And since the light hit me, I've been addicted since. So I've been going at it. I'm hitting 8 years, I believe, this year. It feels like it's longer, but yeah, it's been a really big part of my life, and drag has really saved my life in many different ways. And it's also brought me the biggest happiness in my life. I met my now spouse, because of drag, and we have a beautiful daughter together because of it. And it all started with just doing drag and just expressing myself in that way. And it also really helped me understand and get the courage to come out as a trans person and go through that journey. So it was very much a gift, I feel like, from my ancestors and God, that drag was brought into my life, because it's just brought me so much happiness and community and family that I always wished I had. And now I have it. So it's great. It's very fun.
I love that. Yeah. And I think it's probably one of the most joyful forms of art that I think I've ever seen. It is just so powerful. It's political. It's cultural. It brings the community together. It is just like such an amazing way to kind of express yourself. And I love the fact that it's been able to kind of provide you opportunities just outside of the art form and building community, building family, and just kind of helping understand your identity more. I think that's really a testament to the power of drag. And I think there's like a common thing with drag where people often confuse being a drag artist with trans identity, and they don't understand how those identities connect. You know what I mean? And so as someone who's both trans-masc and a drag king, how do you explain those differences to people, and where do they overlap in your own life?
Like I said before, drag helped me to have the courage to connect with that side of myself, that masculine side, because all my life, I'm the third of 4 girls. So I was always a tomboy. I was like, one time I tried to pee like a boy, like when I was like 5. And so like, there was always, now that I think about it as an adult, there was always signs that I knew that I was not female and that I was wanting to be a boy or like wanting to be more masculine in my life. And, you know, I was forced to dress like a woman or dress like a girl once I had my adolescence. And, you know, it really triggered a lot of like having to pretty much live this life based on a person's expectation of what they want for you really was damaging of my self-confidence and just like I didn't know who I was. And I just kind of like lived my life based on how everybody else wanted to, primarily my family, because I didn't want to lose them. Doing drag really was an eye-opening experience because all my life, it's going to sound crazy, but I never really looked at myself in the mirror. Like I hated it. I hated looking at myself in the mirror. And when I first got in drag, my friend like did this whole transformation on me and I looked in the mirror and it was the first time I literally locked eyes with myself. And I was like, oh my God, I am beautiful. This is crazy. And you know, it's just makeup. You would think like, it's just makeup. It's just like, this is something that as a woman, I was pressured to put on my face to impress men. And now it has transformed me into this like character that I always thought about that was inside of me all this time. And it really kind of opened this side of myself that I never really expressed. You know, I was always very shy. I was always very like timid in high school and beforehand. And doing drag helped me to like get out of my shell and not be ashamed of who I am and not compress who I am. You know, I was very much told in my household, like, stop acting like a gay boy. And it was like, now as an older person, I'm like, okay, well, I've been a gay boy all my life. So, you know, drag, what people need to understand, and I get this question a lot too, is drag is the personification of character. It's not a person. It's a personification of a character created by this person. There's a totally different storyline. Right. There's a whole different mindset, you know, astrological signs. There's different kinds of personality traits that are totally different from each other. Like, for example, like me in real life, I am dorky, I am nerdy, I am clumsy as hell. And I am very much like, I hate interrupting people or like, because I don't want to disturb anybody. And I'm like scared to talk to people most times. But like in drag, I'm like living my best life. I'm talking to every stranger around. I'm like having fun. I'm like dancing with other people and just like being suave, very, you know, like suavecito kind of vibe. And, you know, Johnny is a different person than Roxy is. And the two together just form like a beautiful non-binary human being that is me. And it's really nice to kind of like live my life in a Hannah Montana situation where I have my life as Johnny and I have my life as Roxy and they're separated and it's great.
I love it.
So, yeah. So I hope that made sense in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It totally does. And I'm curious, like, how would you, for people who are curious about drag, like, what would you tell them for kind of like taking that first step to explore it, you know, whether that's actually doing a performance or just actually getting in drag? Like, what would you say to them that are kind of like curious and nervous, or what would you say in general?
I mean, what I always tell people, especially people that are curious or for like first time performers, is I tell them like, try it out. If you're curious about it, try it once. Like, and that can mean different ways. That could mean, you know, you contacting a drag queen and being like, hey, I would like to get made up in drag. whether it's in the privacy of my own home or on a stage or anything like that. Like just having the courage to talk to an artist and be like, hey, I want to transform into this and see how I feel about it. And, from there, it's a crazy experience, because once you get into that makeup and you get into the wig, or in my case, like getting into the suit, getting into the makeup and mustache, and just like putting on those clothes, it's just like whoosh, this whole different, like this character just comes out, and it just, you feel a totally different shift that is so much fun. And you get to create and be creative about it. You like get to make these crazy stories or like taglines and stuff like that. And it's so insane. But I like to tell people is it just take the first step. It's a big step to just say, I want to try it. And then when you actually do it, it's such a big accomplishment that honestly, it's sometimes bigger than performing for 5 years. Like doing the step to actually do drag and perform it the first time is the most bravest thing you can ever do, because it has so much anxiety. There's a lot of pressure. There's like, are people going to like me or not? And, like I like to tell people, you have to have fun. And just make sure that you're having fun the whole entire time. And once it shows in your body that you're having fun, everybody else is going to have fun. Because if you're doing it for everybody else, it's going to be noticeable and you're not going to have fun with it. But you need to have fun, and you just need to be yourself and just go with the flow. And that's it. Like, so that's always what I tell people. Cause it's like, I know for myself, like, the first time will always be like one of the scariest moments of my life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Even on that topic though, like of like the fear and apprehension around it, like what do you think that stems from? Like why do people feel so fearful about doing drag or participating in drag, or just even not even a performance, but just even trying it? Like where do you think that stems from?
I think that comes from past traumas of a person. Sometimes I know for myself, that's a lot of it, but also I feel like it's the fear of being judged, the fear of not being enough, the fear of like, I think the biggest thing, especially as a performer, is the fear of silence in a crowd, like the silence and the no response and just eyes looking at you is a terrifying feeling. And so like that anxiety of like, is this going to happen to me? Are they going to like my number? Like, what if I suck at it? What if I trip? Like that kind of anxiety of like the worst thing to happen. I think it overwhelms people and gets people scared, and just being on a stage in front of people is very scary. It's not for everybody. I think the biggest thing is getting into drag and not realizing what person you're going to become in drag. And if that person, at least for me, when I first got in drag, I was like, I kind of instinctively knew if I get into male drag, I think it's going to be the final step of me realizing that I'm trans-masculine. And I was scared of that. And that's why I never did it. And then when I did do it, I was like, yep, this is it. So I think it's a lot of insecurities that people have in facing those insecurities, because you do have to face a lot of insecurities in drag. It's vulnerability. It's, especially in this world right now, like being discriminated for being queer, let alone being drag. And what are people's opinions going to be about you, especially somebody that you don't want them to know that you're doing this, So it's I think it's mostly people's anxieties, people's trauma, and people's fear of realizing something that they never thought was a reality inside of themselves. So I think that really is the biggest thing when it comes to like fear of doing drag.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm curious, like, kind of pivoting the conversation a little bit into kind of like Johnny Gentleman as a drag artist, as a persona, and all the influences and inspirations that have kind of created Johnny Gentleman into the drag king that he is today. Like, where did those come from? Are they from performers? Are they from musicians? Are they cultural figures? Or even, is it just like everyday archetypes that you're trying to embody when you are Johnny Gentleman? And how do those influences shape, your persona on stage?
So the start of Johnny Gentleman, I've always had this deep love of the 1920s and The Great Gatsby. Like, with Great Gatsby is my favorite book. And, James Gatsby was always like a figure in my head since high school. When I first read the book, was like, he's such a charming, like suave man of confidence. But like, he also has this like weird insecurities and femininity, like invulnerability inside that he's too scared to release out. And so for me, like, I was like, I want to be like a gentleman, like Gatsby-esque man from the 1920s who is here to show people how to be a proper gentleman in today's world and treat everybody like a gentleman and encourage people to be gentlemen. And as time went on, I started to see more influences like and inspirations in my drag, going from like a Gatsby-esque figure to, celebrating my culture as a Central American, being half Guatemalan, half Nicaraguan. My parents were always like, you're in America, you just kind of like focus on that, because if you embrace your culture, people are going to attack you for it and, call you a beaner and stuff like that. And, racial discrimination situation. So it was like encouraged for us to suppress it. But now as an adult, it was like, I'm so proud of where I come from. Like, why am I like learning about my culture? And I was lucky enough when I was 16 to live in Nicaragua for 3 months and just learning about my culture and like my people, and just like embracing and learning about my Mayan side, my indigenousness on both sides, and just like the music, the beauty of music, of Latin music and reggaeton and all these things that like music has always been a really big inspiration for me. And then, jazz being one of my favorite genres of all time, and, Gillespie and just, Miles Davis, Ella Fitzgerald situation. And so I wanted to like merge those things together to where he was this suave, like papacito guy who is a gentleman, who's not afraid to explore his femininity, is totally comfortable in his own skin and his sexuality, and just wants to have fun with everybody and show everybody a good time. And if that means like dancing with grandmas, to bachata, or, bringing back a little bit of like 90s, 2000s hip hop for a little bit of nostalgia, it's just being this like suave guy who just like loves music and embraces who he is culturally and personality wise, and just not being afraid of being himself. And so that's where Johnny Gentleman comes from. And, performance wise, a big inspiration, because, researching drag kings and stuff, Tenderoni was a big, huge influence in my life. It's till this day, like we're brothers, but I'm like, you're my friend. This is weird. It's crazy. And my friends all around the world, during lockdown, I got to meet so many drag kings from all around the world, and just seeing their artistry really like inspires me to like, oh, let me try this. Let me try experimental. Let me try this kind of genre. Let's try to do more lyrical, theatrical work. So, like the Cake Boys, Ethan Sword, we have, Andraé King down in Florida, and, a majority of my friends in, the East Coast, celebrating our revolutionary kings, celebrating Latinidad, are really big influences in my life. So it's it's just, I am constantly being inspired by my own community. And it's just so refreshing because now there's a new load of new drag kings coming out, and now I get to work with them. And I'm like, oh my God, you're inspiring me as a little tiny baby and making me realize why I started this. And it's like, it's such a mix of everything, and it's just always different and new. And that's the great part about doing drag, is like, you're just constantly inspired by different things all the time. And it's just so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, I believe it. I love the fact that like this art form is specifically the way that you kind of have started with the kind of the 1920s, influences, but it's evolved and you've allowed like your work to be influenced by other kings and just other styles, that it just made you evolve and become much more of an expansive performer that like is always pulling in new things. I think that's so powerful as an artist, to not kind of, only do one thing, but always kind of evolve with time and culture and your understanding of like the world. And I think that's what's really powerful about Johnny Gentleman as a persona, that continues to evolve and continues to change. And I think that's just something that I think with drag as an art form, it is really about bringing these influences together and bringing it to life in the way that you see it and can uniquely bring it to life. So I think that's super fantastic. And I'm curious, like when you are building a Johnny Gentleman, number, a performance, right? What is kind of like the spark of inspiration? Like, is it a song? Is it a character? Is it a piece of masculinity that you're specifically trying to parody? Can you walk us through like, how do you make a king performance?
It varies in different ways. Like, a lot of the times, most of the time, it's a song. Like, I'll hear a song and then instantly I'll get ideas. And then I'm like, oh my God, okay. And then because I used to be a film and television major and like worked in film and television for 6 to 7 years. And so like, I'm a film buff. So I'll be like, oh, I can get a clip from like this TV show and maybe this movie, and then make a whole storyline with this whole entire character. And so it goes from like song to like a lot of newer things have been what is happening to not only the queer community, but the minority community right now. And especially, I'm very proud, and I'm proud of being Latina and my community, because it's always felt it's a sense of home for me when I'm around other Latino people. And, I was raised in a town where like my neighborhood was 90% undocumented folks. So the people that have influenced, like been really positive and supportive people in my life have been undocumented Latina people. And so as of lately, that's been a really constant inspiration. I had a really fun number planned out for Bushwig that was dedicated to the Latinidad community. Just to start singing about my pride of my Chicano community here in LA and how we're not going to go by. So it's many different things that inspire me, honestly, from becoming a father and realizing the trauma I had being raised by an abusive father, especially the dynamics of like being a former daughter and now being a father to a daughter is a crazy experience. So, just different things like that, and just trying to make sure that like story be the main focus of it, because sometimes you can get too many ideas and then it's like, it doesn't make sense. But, just trying to keep it simple and make sure that like I'm grabbing different things and creating a very impactful story with it, whether it's to make you laugh or to make you feel something or to like distract you from a bad time or being political. It's to my main focus is always to tell a story somehow, some way, and make people feel things, because that for me is true artistry, when you can tell a story through emotions and movement and making people feel seen and heard, for sure. So that's how I work when it comes to numbers. It's very random. And when I feel inspired, I just try to make something happen.
Yeah. And are you creating performances for each event that you're working? Are you using kind of the same ones for multiple events? Like, how do you kind of determine how you want to kind of like approach an event, or, how many performances you want to do of a specific set?
Most of the time, as of lately, just because managing new parenthood and, being a drag performer, it's hard. So I've been, recycling numbers, but what I have is numbers that are different kinds of things. Like reggaeton numbers, Disney numbers, all ages numbers for like all ages events. Or, I have numbers dedicated to Indigenousness for Latina people and stuff like that. So I have different kinds of things that sometimes I can just mix around and like use. But as of lately, I've been trying to kind of push myself to create new numbers where I can make new looks, explore a different side of myself that I haven't explored or I haven't explored enough, and just kind of like figure out, like like we were talking about earlier, is like, trying to be consistent and trying to evolve with the new trends and generations happening, because I love what I do. I want to do it forever if I can. And, I constantly love trying to evolve and challenge myself. So I'm trying to do that right now. But yeah, I have everything kind of categorized. And if I feel inspired by a theme or an event, then I'll make a new number. That hasn't come too much recently. So I'm trying my best to just like challenge myself and create some new numbers that could be really, really fun for everybody. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. I love that. Transitioning from the stage to kind of wider culture, drag kings parody, they critique, and they celebrate masculinity. How do you use your own drag to subvert toxic masculinity while still owning its power? And how do you see drag kings pushing against masculinity in wider culture?
With my drag, I try to create a man that's a total opposite of my father. That's not machismo, or if anybody doesn't know what that is like, like very like manly aggressive, like toxic masculinity. We call it machismo. And so like, especially being raised by, immigrant parents from Central America, like there's the specific roles and like the expectations that my father had of like, men work and you don't do anything in the house, and then you have to provide the cooking and clean up the house, but you're not doing it good enough, and kind of that situation. So I wanted, when I started doing drag and in my transition, is like I wanted to be the total opposite of that. I wanted to be a man that was masculine and was, that suaveness, manliness, but also was not afraid to explore his feminine side, that like literally like parodies toxic masculinity and just be like, oh, no homo. And just kind of like provoke this ideology that this is what you need to be in order to be like a man. This is what you need to do. This is your expectations of what a man is. And the beauty of drag kings is that it's our power as AFAB people or assigned female at birth people, and some AMAB people assigned female at birth people, is, it's our chance to redefine what masculinity is and what defines manhood. And also like parodying the stupid expectations that our society has about what it takes to be a man or what is expected of men, and being like, no, that's not how it is anymore. And this is stupid. And we're going to show you what a true man really is. And so that's the fun part of being a drag king, is like we get to create our own masculinity and define it ourselves, and hopefully influence and inspire other men to like not be afraid of those things, exploring those sides and be more open about it, not suppress your feelings, all these things. And yeah, just like making your own definition of masculinity and manhood. And that's the beauty of, that's what we try to do with drag king artistry, for sure, is like, just be the man you want to be. That's it. Period.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. No, I think that's honestly like such a perfect way to put it, because it's like there is such a narrow perspective on how masculinity is seen in our culture. And, oftentimes like people will, or specifically men I'll talk about, they'll have to perform this, set rules of like, values and their behavior and how they hold themselves and how they dress and the things that they like. And it's like, it's such a narrow perspective. And it's like being a man is a very expansive experience. It could mean many things. And I think a lot of times men are afraid to tap into the breadth of what masculine or feminine or just kind of a more nebulous space between those two can be. And they, from silly things like they don't want to be seen drinking a fruity beverage, or they don't want to, in some weird cases, like, washing their hands, just kind of really silly things that are just kind of ridiculous if you really think about it. But I think for them, it's like there's such a fear of them kind of falling outside of what is considered the norm of masculinity. And I think if men were able to kind of tap into this idea that like masculinity can be many things, and we don't also have to police each other on what masculinity can look like. You can be more feminine at times. You can be more masculine at times. You can be a mixture of both or neither. And I think that's the whole thing, is that gender by its own, definition is a construct that we can continue to play with. We can, explore one thing one day, something else the other day. And, it doesn't have to be something so rigid in the way that our culture perpetuates it, and to allow themselves to like have some grace in being masculine or not being masculine enough. It's like, we can be whoever we want. And, it's just about understanding that like our identity is fluid. Our identity is more than just what other people tell us it is. You know what I mean? And I think drag kings do such a fantastic job of being able to embody that. They're able to critique it, and they're also able to celebrate it. And I think in such really powerful ways, whether it's a performance or just by them existing, their own identity of existing as a drag king in society. I think it's just a powerful art form. It's a powerful message. And I think it's one that I don't think a lot of men are, maybe they're not willing to, do that inner work, or maybe it's just the community around them doesn't allow them to find that more expansive version of what masculinity is. But I think it's something that they need to embrace for their own safety, for their own health, for the health of the community that surrounds them, because there is so much more to masculinity than what we have been told and programmed and police others to do. You know what I mean? Like, it is toxic masculinity. Like it's such a topic that I think a lot of people who are opponents of it, or people that are critics of it specifically, they don't understand that it is so destructive to communities at large. And there are so many ramifications, domestic violence. It can be, incarceration. It could be the way that our society functions as a whole. Like, there's just so many things that masculinity on such a aggressive and extreme version have so many effects that can really poison a society, right? And it's not saying that masculinity is by itself bad, but the version of it that we in society are perpetuating is an unhealthy one. You know what I mean?
Exactly that. Yeah. And it sucks because, this ideology and expectation of masculinity and manliness is so bad. And it's like, it's so bad in a way that it is causing mental health issues. It's causing addiction issues. And it's also like healthy communication. You know, it's these are things that are causing big problems in our society and could be figured out through therapy, through openness of emotions, through, you know, communication, like I said, and, you know, just like having no expectations of like what a man is, like, or minimal, like washing your hands in the bathroom, please. Like, I think that's the only man thing expectation I have for every man. Just wash your hands in the bathroom.
Literally. This is why we all get sick. You know what I mean? Like, wash your hands, please. For your sake and mine, please.
That is the most manly thing you can do is wash your hands. Okay, please. That's the one thing I do not like about the men's room. I'm like, I can't. It's nasty.
Exactly. Now, pivoting the topic a little bit more back to you and your work and kind of the amazing platforms that you've created. You've created LA's first drag king brunch with Dapper Puss and the city's premier king competition, The Last Gentleman. What do those spaces mean to you, and what impact do you hope that they leave on the drag landscape and honestly just like the wider LA community?
Yeah. First off, thank you for your kind words. I am literally blushing and I'm like getting very hot on my cheeks. So thank you for that.
I mean, you created some amazing platforms. Like, you should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Just like having not only the will to do it, but the ability to execute and vision and all of that. Like, it is something that not a lot of people have. Like, you are a builder, you are a creator, and you are a performer. And I think that's something so uniquely powerful about you as an individual that like you should be so proud of that. And I'm proud of you for that, just because it's like it inspires me as a creator myself and just like a member of the community. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Of course.
I think the biggest thing about these events is it's my homage to the people that helped me when I didn't have anybody. When I started my transition, I was estranged from my family for 2 years, and, you know, I didn't have full support of my top surgery or transitioning, you know, taking hormones or anything like that. And, you know, didn't even have my mother visit me when I got top surgery, even though I was like 15 minutes away from her. And these simple things that like you would expect from your family to do, and like they don't, because of certain excuses or things. And, you know, it was a really hard time for me during that. And the thing that kept me going and was like, till this day, like I'm getting emotional about it, because when I needed help, my drag community and my king community and my queen community just like stepped up where my family didn't, and said like, let's get you where you need to go, checking in on me, sending me flowers, you know, making little like friend dates while I'm like recovering. And, you know, it was like they were my family taking care of me at that time. And they've always been that. My community has always been that. And it's why I have so much love and passion for my community. And I want to do so much for them, because when I was at my lowest and I thought I had nobody, they were there. And for me, since that moment, I made it a vow, an internal vow to like create and be there for my community as much as I can, create spaces for them, create a community for people that don't know how to get it or don't have it. You know, I had to drive from Montclair, California to LA almost every other day because that was the only way I could get community, because I didn't feel comfortable at home being myself. And so with these events, what I'm trying to do is just, first off, bring awareness that drag kings are here. We're not going anywhere. and that we deserve not only equal opportunity in the city, but also equal exposure, equal pay. Because even though, it's a gender swap community and industry, there is still it's still very gender favoritism, because, people are like, oh, because of RuPaul's Drag Race, drag queens are the only thing, you know what I mean? And so when you bring in drag kings, they're like, well, you don't perform as much as queens do. And it's like, girl, not all of us can do the kitty cat meow 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 with splits, like some of us wear butches and played softball for 9 years. So like our knees are shot. We can't do that. But, so we constantly have to prove ourselves all the time. And there were I was in so many competitions where I was literally like one of the only drag kings in the competition. And it was so hard because everybody favors queens. And there was so much pressure and expectation for me to perform and to succeed, because I was like, I'm representing kings. I want to make them proud. And I want people to see that we are so talented, and what we don't have in maybe like stunts, we have in story, we have in connection with crowds, and in just stupidity and like parody of masculinity that is just like so unique in its own way, because everybody is so unique, rather than everybody just trying to be a root girl and just do splits. And no shade to them. It's just, being in the industry, it's like, okay, everybody expects that. And it's a similar thing. But with drag kings, everybody's different. And everybody is not a Landon Cider or a Tenderoni or a Throb Zombie. Everybody is their own person. So for me, what I wanted to do is provide spaces for drag kings to be booked, first off. With the competition that had been, maybe 2-3 years in the making. And I just decided I'm just going to do a season and see how it goes. And it was just so enriching, because there was just these enthusiastic, passionate, new performers being excited every week for a new challenge, and like forming a brotherhood together that is very special, because they were in the trenches together, and, creating a bond with everybody, and like also exposing different venues to drag kings, and, bringing in people who can help them go further in life to know, hey, these are drag kings that you should look out for. Check them out. If you like what they see, then go follow them and book them. So that's been my main focus with all the events, is just celebrating the art of drag king, the art of drag thing or non-binary artists, drag artists, and providing them with a space where they can feel appreciated for their art and just be themselves, and for society to see that we're here to entertain you and provide you with a good time just as much as queens are. So it's been really fun to make. It's crazy to make. It is not for the weak. It's a lot of volunteer work that I produce a lot of these shows, but it's big passions of mine, because there isn't a lot of spaces for drag kings. And now I'm exploring, back to my roots in the Inland Empire, and working with, some places out there, and seeing the same thing happen, what happened here in LA. At least there's a little bit of more exposure here, but there's literally 0 drag king spaces there. So now I'm just trying to branch out to different places that I think would appreciate a drag king space, or that I know there's no real representation of that there. So it's been fun. I love doing what I do, and I love meeting these new artists and helping them and mentoring them, and just like validating their art. Because I know for me, doing these competitions when I was in my young years, it was hard to believe in myself, because I didn't have stunts. I didn't have these things. And if it wasn't for my beautiful drag queen sisters that really helped me and lifted me up. And a lot of them were trans Black and Latina people. So I love them to death, and I wouldn't be here without them. And so I just want to try to do the same thing for my king community, especially the future of drag kings. You know, I want it to a point where we can have the same and equal opportunity and salary of a Rue girl, you know, Rue girls, but drag kings, you know, where we can make it a full-time actual career out of it and have a salary and security. Because right now, and I think that's another thing that I appreciate about drag kings, is we have no time to be a full-time drag performer and pay our bills. We have 40-hour jobs, plus we do drag, plus we make costumes, plus we have side hustles because we need to raise money for our drag, because we don't have tailors or designers to help us with our drag. We kind of have to do it ourselves. Right now, not only me, but a lot of the influential kings are just trying to have more visibility for drag kings and have people, you know, pay attention to us more and try to create more professional fame opportunities. So that way we can have careers and perform and may have secure money and tour just as much as all of our drag queen counterparts do. So yeah, that's my main focus right now of creating these spaces is just for my local community. And hopefully it branches into something big where, you know, maybe a tour or something like that and influence other people outside of LA to try to do more drag king spaces. So we're hoping and praying, y'all. It's a team effort.
I love that. Yeah. And I just think, like, again, to your point, I think like there's just, again, so much influence on drag queens versus drag kings. And so it's like, that makes it so difficult in order to kind of, you know, compete in the same spaces and not being able to have like the whole apparatus that RuPaul's Drag Race has created for drag kings. And like on that topic, like with shows like King of Drag opening up space for drag kings on television, what do you hope the next wave of drag king visibility looks like in LA and beyond?
My hope and prayer is that shows like King of Drag continue to be popularized and for other networks to see it and be like, oh my God, this has always been here. Like, this is amazing. These are such talented kings. Like, let's give them more spaces to share their artistry in the public media. Because I work pretty close with the Reverie people as well. So, you know, we have similar expectations of like shows like this to hopefully merge out and be huge, successful things and open the eyes of society to want to see these kind of art forms and hopefully influence different and other shows, or, you know, create content where it's drag kings are the main character of a TV show or a film movie, you know, and provide, like I said before, like provide opportunities for drag kings, professional drag kings to have full-on careers, whether it's being a content creator or touring the world or being an actor. And hopefully we can get to the expectation of Drag Race to where it's an equal stage and opportunity that we can have within the drag community for drag kings and drag queens, and just have an equal space where we can just all tour together. Maybe that would be fun. And yeah, it's just all about fighting for equality in it all, like equal opportunity, equal pay, equal union, you know, unionizing is a big thing right now. We're trying to unionize with drag queens and create a drag union, you know, because we do all these flips and stunts, but we don't have healthcare. So, you know, and providing education to venues about how to treat drag performers and what proper pay is and stuff like that. So, you know, these are the things that us as a community, or at least I talk to other community leaders about all the time. And we're just trying to build a world where it's just everybody loves drag, and it doesn't matter what kind of drag it is. So yeah, that's my hope and expectation, is just trying to get equal opportunity and a sense of equality, where we're not being having expectations of, oh, you're not as entertaining as a queen, so we're not going to book you for that. And it's like, we can be just as entertaining as drag queens, and we are going to fight till the end until you see it that way. So yeah, hopefully we get there.
Awesome. Well, that completes our deep space dive. We'll now head into the final frontier.
Yay!
We are now at the final frontier, our closing round of rapid fire questions. Boo, boo, boo. Johnny, please answer these questions as quickly or as thoughtfully as you'd like. The first question I have for you is, what is your go-to queer anthem that never fails to get you pumped?
A lot of my pumped up music is like stupid dance movie soundtracks. But I would say the gayest song that gets me pumped, and it's actually my skate song and people laugh at me for it, is Barbie Girl by Aqua.
Yes. No, that's iconic. That is super iconic. I love that song too.
It gets me pumped so much.
Yes. The next question I have for you is, if Johnny Gentleman came with a warning label, what would it say?
So many. That's the answer. One that could explain all of them is, caution, you might be swooned by his hips. Probably. That's the most tamed version that I think it explains all of it. That would be it. Yeah,
it sure does. It sure does. I love that. The next question I have for you is, if you had one queer superpower, as grounded or as fantastical as you'd like, what would it be and why?
I guess the one talent, and I don't think it's like the gayest thing, but the talent I've always wanted to have is the ability to sing. I've always wanted to like sing. So yes. If I could like belt to Ariana like, then that'd be great. Fantastic. Let's do it. Musical style.
I love that. Music. I like that. That's good. That's a great one. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
The next question I have for you is, what is your favorite piece of queer content? It could be a film, a show, a book, or even a performance that you keep coming back to again and again.
One of them is always going to be J-Lo and Shakira's halftime show, because that was epic and all my fantasy.
Yes,
I'm a huge J-Lo and Shakira fan, so those two together, queer dreams. Let's see. Wicked is very special to my heart. It was my best friend who passed away's favorite musical, and we were supposed to see it together. Now with the movie, or even like, scenes from previous stage performances, I just love watching, when I miss her a lot, I just watch the number of, For Good, that song, For Good.
Yes.
Because it explains that dynamic, and the lyrics of it is exactly how I feel about my friend. And when I miss her a lot, I just watch that and just watch Wicked in general. Like, just whenever I miss her, that's the biggest thing. And like, even the final trailer came out the other day, and I was like, I'm not ready.
That's so sweet
ready. Though. So yeah, that's probably it. I also just like watch a bunch of gay shit, like RuPaul's Drag Race, 90 Day Fiance, all that good jazz. To Wong Fu, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
So yeah,
all of your choices are so good.
Thank you.
They're so good. They're all so good. I love them all. Amazing. The next question I have is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't listen to what your family says. Just be who you truly are. Embrace it and be proud of it. Now, being a parent, I understand the importance of celebrating your child for who they are, and suppressing them can be very damaging to their adolescence and their adulthood. So that for me would be the biggest thing, is just telling little Roxy, continue to fight to wear those cargo pants you want to, wear a suit if you want to, and, you know, don't be afraid to be feminine and act like a gay boy if you want to, because that's just who you truly are, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's beautiful. And last question I have for you is, where can folks find your shows, follow your work, or get tickets to your upcoming shows?
You can follow me on my drag Instagram, which is Johnny the Gent, JOHNNY, the Gent, GENT, LA. So Johnny the Gent LA, if you want to see any of my shows or look at pictures of me. Also, any of my shows that you would like to come that I'm producing, please follow my production page, which is Dapper Puss ENT. So just think of Dapper Pussy without the Y, and then Entertainment ENT. Right now, I mean me. Currently, unfortunately, we've lost our venue. We lost our venue unexpectedly 6 months ago for Dapper Puss. So right now I am scouting locations in LA that are hopefully all ages, because we try to do it all ages so that way everybody can come. So if anybody has references to locations and want to help out, please let me know. Also, I'm trying to produce an all BIPOC cabaret show. So that's also happening. And I am in pre-production for season 3 of The Last Gentleman. So any venue recommendations in LA, please tell me. Send me a DM. If you know the managers and stuff, please let me know. I'm trying to create some more drag king shows over in the Inland Empire and hopefully Long Beach. So keep in mind of that. And yeah, just continue to book drag kings if you are a producer watching this, and consider us for any quinceañeras, bachelorette parties. We're always available. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for reminding us that masculinity is not the enemy. The problem is our culture's narrow vision of it. Like, it's the one that tells men that they can't cry. It tells women they should be small. It tells queer and trans folks they don't belong at all. That version harms all of us, right? Even the people who try hardest to live inside of it, it does harm all of us, right? And drag kings unmask that lie. They parody its absurdities, they reveal its fragility, and they rebuild masculinity into something bigger, something playful, powerful, and free. They show masculinity can be swagger and softness. It can be satire and intimacy, and it can be strength without cruelty.
Yes.
Yes. Today's cosmic key takeaway is masculinity does not collapse when we queer it, it opens it up. And when drag kings take the stage, they prove that gender does not have to limit us. It can liberate us all. So until next time, thank you again, Johnny. Until next time, stay curious.
Bye.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Queerest Podcast. Thank you for joining us on this cosmic journey through the queer universe. If today's conversation resonated with you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your chosen family. Your voice helps grow the queerest community. Until next time, stay curious.